Why do I practice plant medicine? Well, because plants are our first teachers, before science, before systems. In this episode, I'm sharing my journey as a trained herbalist, the power of plants beyond trends and tourism, and how reverence, not recreation, is at the heart of real medicine. Long before Western clinical treatment, there was us. Welcome to the Healing Underground, a sacred space where we remember what we've always known, reclaim what we've always had, and rise in all the ways that heal. I'm Ashley Edwards, a mental health innovator, founder of MindRight Health, and initiated Ìyá in the West African spiritual tradition of Ifa. If you've ever felt that modern wellness is not made for all of who you are, then you're in the right place. Just remember, this podcast is not a lecture, it's a meditation. Let's begin. When I was a graduate student at Stanford, I started having crashing migraines to the point where I couldn't even see straight, let alone stand up. It got so bad, I almost had to drop out of my program. And when I was in the hospital, they were evaluating me for a brain tumor. Now, fortunately, it was not that, but what I was left with was a chronic brain condition that I then had to learn how to live with. Every week, I'd be going to the pharmacy, getting new prescriptions, trying different pills that ended up only making me feel more sick. And I said to myself, there has to be another way. And so I started researching. I started looking into different holistic treatments and healings, and that's when I was drawn to plants. I ended up taking a leap of faith and enrolling in an herbalism apprenticeship in Brooklyn. At the time, I was living in Newark, New Jersey, and every day after work from building my startup MindRight, I would take 3 trains to get to Brooklyn and sit in this herbal apothecary and learn from a master healer about indigenous plant wisdom. And despite how tiring the journey was to get there every day, I was just so inspired. And in that herbal apothecary, surrounded by plants and herbs and jars, I felt so at peace. How amazing was it that for so many of the ailments, including my own, that we struggle with, nature has so much of the cure. And so in my herbal apprenticeship, we didn't start by just memorizing a bunch of different plants and herbs and how to use them. We started this journey by walking in relationship with one plant. And so in the early days of my apprenticeship, the first plant I walked with was mugwort. Mugwort was a slightly unassuming plant, and I figured, why not? And so I got to know it and build a relationship with it. And here I was thinking that herbalism was about really taking what you need to heal and moving along, but I learned how to build a relationship with plants and the nature around me. And when we took a trip to the Rare Books Library in New York, I was able to open a book hundreds of years old and see herbalists from that time talking about mugwort, the same plant that I'm using today, but back then was used for spiritual protection and magic and lucid dreaming. And after reading that book, I realized how lucky we are. Empires have risen and fallen. Society has changed a million times over. But we still are surrounded by plant medicine around us and can still learn from it today. And by walking with my very first plant in my herbalism apprenticeship, that's when I realized and really started to understand that plants don't just heal the body, they speak to the soul. Not only do plants have biochemical effects and different actions and properties to help you physically, but different plants are associated with different planets, different astrology signs, different elements, different spiritual practices. By the end of my apprenticeship, I was able to walk away not only with an understanding of how to use plants to heal, but also as an herbalist trained in the art of spiritual herbalism, and understanding there is much more to plants than treating them as a commodity. Because plants are not only tools, but they are teachers. I had the opportunity to help organize one of the first Black herbalist conferences in New York. And as we sat in community with other herbalists, we talked about not only what we could take from plants, but what we're learning from them in our journeys walking with plant medicine. And scientific research is now justifying what herbalists and indigenous communities have already known. Plants feel, plants communicate, and plants remember. And this is why it's so important to honor plants beyond the trend. Psychedelics are not the only plants that matter. They are not the only plants that are healing. You do not need to pay thousands of dollars to go to Costa Rica or Peru to do ayahuasca to have a healing experience with a plant. Honestly, go to your backyard, go to the park, learn what grows around you. Start your relationship there, because there is something to learn and there are healing properties of nearly everything in nature. And when we reduce the conversation to psychedelics like ayahuasca or mushrooms alone, it erases the indigenous wisdom that has come from plants and has been with us, waiting for us to absorb it. And you might be saying, okay, Ashley, well, give us some specifics. How can we get started? Well, let's take plants that are pretty common. Let's say you want to start a healing spiritual experience with plants. Let's take chamomile. Chamomile can be used to help with things like insomnia and sleep issues, or spiritually, it can be used to help soften your relationship with yourself. And don't get me started with what we call weeds that surround us. Dandelion, for example, can be used to help with liver problems, or spiritually, it's been used to help you reconnect with your voice. And some of us actually grow up with plant medicine without even realizing it. Now, let me say for the record, my mom makes the best collard greens. And when I was growing up, whenever she would make a big pot of collard greens, she always would force us to drink the juice, which we called pot liquor. And I absolutely hate it, drinking collard green juice, because I think it's nasty. But as an herbalist, I'm like, hold on a second. Collard greens are antioxidant powerhouses. Whether my mom was aware of this or not, this is an example of how plant wisdom is so ingrained in culture that we don't even know when we're living with it at times. We don't even know that this is generational wisdom. Pot liquor is generational wisdom. It is plant medicine, and it is a part of the African American healing tradition, whether we name it as that or recognize it as such. The same goes for ginger or peppermint tea or any household cures that we've grown up with, but never really knew the source of that knowledge. And these plants and herbs aren't just home remedies. They're resistance, they're remembrance, they're survival, and they are inherent of the living wisdom that is present in the African diaspora. And this is important to call out because Western tourism is distorting the narrative around plant medicine. We focus so much on medicines like ayahuasca and mushrooms, but why aren't we talking about the plant medicine that comes out of Africa? Why aren't we talking about iboga, a sacred medicine that's native in Central Africa? Iboga has been used for centuries as a spiritual rite of passage. Some call it more powerful than ayahuasca. Iboga is used in community with elders guiding the journey. It's used to reveal truth and communicate with the divine. Yet most people have never heard of it. And that is by no accident. It goes along with just general erasure of traditional African healing traditions. This is why it's up to us to uplift the medicine and the communities that have carried it. So if you're listening now and thinking, okay, well, how do I get started on my plant medicine journey? Here's my advice. First, start with what's around you. Learn what plants grow native in your region and your geography. After that, look into your ancestry. Figure out what plants your ancestors used to heal. After that, choose one plant to walk with. Learn the proper way to make it medicinal, whether it's a tea or a tincture. Learn about the different properties. Meditate with it. Keep a plant journal and sit in relationship with that plant. And as you're going on this journey, remember that plant medicine is already a part of the culture. It's just up for us to remember and listen. Thank you for going underground with me. The journey doesn't have to stop here. If you'd like some additional support on the way, explore my free guided meditations. Or if you're ready to have someone walk beside you on this journey, visit MindRight to start your healing. May your healing be sacred, may it be sovereign, and may it be yours.